So today we'll learn about causes of hypokalemia. Hypokalemia we consider when it is less than 3.5 millimole per liter. Now, causes for hypokalemia, there can be transcellular shift. Transcellular shift. That is, potassium goes inside the cell and hence it will cause hypokalemia. So what are the causes for transcellular shift? We'll see. We have insulin, then we have hyperthyroidism, beta 2 agonist, then we have increased sympathetic activity, then the metabolic alkalosis. So all these things, they will cause sodium potassium ATPase promoter. These are all sodium potassium ATPase promoter, and we know sodium potassium ATPase is pumpkin. It is pumpkin. Pumpkin means, to remember, that sodium potassium ATPase, it pumps K in, that is potassium inside the cells. So insulin, we can think of like, suppose there is malnourished child, they have given carbohydrate load that will release insulin, and release of insulin will cause shift of potassium inside the cell and will cause hypokalemia. Next, beta 2 agonist like bronchodilators and tocolytics. This can also cause shift of potassium inside the cell and hypokalemia. Then we have ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. So this ephedrine and pseudoephedrine present in cough syrup. These are present in cough syrup. When ingested excess, can cause unexpected hypokalemia. They can cause unexpected hypokalemia. So alteration in sympathetic activity can also cause hypokalemia. For example, like hyperthyroidism, it can also cause. Then MI can also result in altered sympathetic activity and hypokalemia. And in metabolic alkalosis, we also get hypokalemia. So little more I want to talk about this thing about thyrotoxic periodic paralysis. There is something called as thyrotoxic periodic paralysis. In thyrotoxic periodic paralysis, there is mutation in gene KIR2.6. So this will increase in hormone sensitive potassium channels. So again potassium will go inside the cells and it will cause hypokalemia. So these patients, they may not have thyrotoxic or hyperthyroidism symptoms. So they typically develop muscle weakness and limb girdle extremity weakness. They will have, typically they develop from night 1 a.m. to morning 6 a.m. They will develop this periodic paralysis. So in these patients, we can give beta blocker beta blockers. If we give beta blockers, then this is a treatment of choice for this thyrotoxic periodic paralysis. And there is also one more entity called as familial hypokalemic paralysis. So this is also runs in families. So in hypokalemia, we have to see urine potassium. It can be either more than 15 millimole per day or less than 15 millimole. In less than 15 millimole, we think of GI loss, diarrhea, that is metabolic acidosis, and it can also occur in profuse sweating, normal or profuse sweating. In more than 15 millimole per day, we have to think of without hypertension or with hypertension. Two possibilities are there. In without hypertension, next we have to consider whether it is metabolic acidosis or it is metabolic alkalosis. Next, in metabolic acidosis, we have to think of proximal RTA, distal RTA, amphotericin, acetazolamide. So acetazolamide is carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. In metabolic alkalosis, we again check for urine chlorine. If urine chlorine is more than 20 or the urine chlorine is less than 10. Urine chlorine less than 10 means we have to think of vomiting or chloride diarrhea. Urine chlorine is more than 20. Then we have to see urine calcium by creatinine. If urine calcium by creatinine is more than 0.20 or it is less than 0.15. If it is more than 0.20, then it is loop diuretics or Barter's syndrome. If it is less than 0.15, it is thiazide diuretics or it can be Gitelman's syndrome. So basically, to simplify, we have to see urine more than 15 millimole per day if it is there. If there is no hypertension, then we have to see metabolic acidosis or metabolic alkalosis. If it is metabolic acidosis, then we have to think renal tubular acidosis type 2, renal tubular acidosis type 1, or it can be due to amphotericin and acetazolamide. In metabolic alkalosis, if urine chlorine is more than 20, then think of Bartter syndrome, Gitelman syndrome, loop diuretics and thiazide diuretics. If it is less than 10, think of vomiting and chloride diarrhea. With hypertension, then we have to see aldosterone levels. Aldosterone levels are whether high or can be low. Aldosterone levels high or aldosterone levels low. Then this high aldosterone can be due to high renin. High renin, high aldosterone, or low renin, high aldosterone. High renin, high aldosterone is seen in renal artery stenosis. Then malignant hypertension, and also in renin secreting tumor. Low renin can be seen in primary aldosteronism, or we can think of familial hyperaldosteronism. Familial hyperaldosteronism 1. So in this renin levels will be low. Low renin, we have to think of now cortisol levels. Now if cortisol levels are high, then it is Cushing's syndrome. If cortisol levels are normal or low, then it can be Liddle's syndrome, or it can be due to ingestion of licorice, or it can be due to syndrome of apparent mineralocorticoid excess. So with hypertension, we have to see aldosterone levels, high aldosterone or low aldosterone. If it is high aldosterone, it can be due to high renin. High renin can occur in renal artery stenosis, malignant hypertension, and renin secreting tumor. Low renin means primary aldosteronism or familial hyperaldosteronism. Then we have to see if it is low aldosterone, then check cortisol levels. Cortisol levels are more means we are dealing with Cushing's syndrome. And if low aldosterone, still we are getting hypertension, means either it can be Liddle syndrome, or it can be due to licorice, LICORICE, or it can be due to syndrome of apparent mineralocorticoid excess.